Every cave I enter has a secret. Down there in the darkness, there's always a mystery to unlock. Some people are afraid of the dark. Sounds echo seemingly from nowhere. But there are no monsters down here. Back in what we like to call prehistoric times, people escaped beasts by hiding in caves. What was so surprising about this cave was that its secret wasn't prehistory, it was living history.
Here we are in the grotto underground, buried alive. Who could tell how long we need to remain?
I'm a New Yorker. I work as an investigator for the state of New York, but my passion is caving. I travel the world exploring caves. It was in 1993, right after the breakup of the Soviet Union, that I first came to Ukraine. I wanted to research my Eastern Orthodox family heritage, and I wanted to explore Ukraine's legendary Egyptian caves. Egyptian caves don't occur that often in nature, they're very rare. And some of the biggest caves in the world happen to be Egyptian caves, and they're located in western Ukraine. I was traveling through the second longest of the Egyptian caves, the 77-mile-long Priest Grotto Cave, when I turned the corner and stumbled over some objects. There were the remains of stoves. Trenches had been dug to make earthen tables and earthen benches. And I'm not an archaeologist, but I could tell that these things were aged. You start to move some earth around, you find medicine bottles, buttons, a lot of buttons, and a lot of fragments of leather shoes. And one shoe was a lady's shoe. What's either very small woman or child's shoe doing in that cave? Those objects were someone's life. I had to find out the story of who lived there. I began to map all the objects. Each object was a piece of the puzzle. I started asking people in the nearby town about the cave. In the early 90s, a lot of Ukrainians were still hesitant to talk to Westerners. I'm rather outgoing, and I smile a lot, and I like talking. Oh, no. People were very hesitant. Nobody smiled. Maybe as soon as 94, 95, that someone said maybe some Jews lived in the cave. Юрешки, как витал. Это место?
Ага, то место так. Це все було дім за домом.
And again, there's a language problem. I'm trying to find out, what do you mean maybe some Jews lived in the cave? This was my first real lead. I began to research the history of the Jews in Ukraine and discovered that before World War II, Ukraine was home to one of the largest Jewish populations in all Europe. My Eastern Orthodox ancestors probably had Jewish neighbors.
We were living in the town of Korolovka. My husband Zayda, our children, and I. There were 500 Jews living in town. Ukrainians and Poles lived on the bordering streets. The Jews traded with them. It had gone on like this for many years. My two granddaughters were the newest addition to our big family.
With my grandmother, when you came to my grandmother Esther, you had to produce. It wasn't playtime. But she was a businesswoman. My other grandmother picked me up, kissed me, hugged me, but she didn't do that. The time that I spent with her had to be productive. She used to have the newspapers delivered from Warsaw, from Chartkov, from Lvov.
She was reading what happened in 1938 in Germany on Crystal Night when they burned all the synagogues. She said, it's bad, we have to run away if we can. One day she finds in the paper that Canada would accept Jewish farmers.
We prepared our documents, my husband Zayda and 5 of our 6 children. My oldest son, Nissel, who had been in the Polish cavalry. My younger son, Sam, and my middle son, the carpenter, Saul, and my 2 younger daughters, Hannah and Yetta. My oldest daughter, Henia, and her husband, Fischl Dodig, had decided to remain in Karlovka with my granddaughters, Sonia and little Sima.
Komt 89, 1, 2, 3.
And we had an interview with the Canadian Council. They examined us, and we were accepted. And my father sold the land, the houses, everything, the beds, and whatever we had. In 1939, on 8th of September, we were supposed to go. It was reserved places on a boat. Stefan Batory was the name of the boat. The 1st of September, the war broke out, and we got stuck there. My mother said, black clouds are coming.
As soon as the Germans came in, they made a Judenrat. They made Jewish people to be in charge of the other Jewish people.
They would tell us, we're going to register all the people between 10 and 50.
And they're starting to say that we have to go to the ghetto.
My mother said, boys, make some bunkers, hiding places. And we made those places. We made about 6 places.
Kommt raus! Alle raus! Schaut auch hinter den Schränken.
I used to sit with my finger on my mouth, and I knew I was not allowed to speak. I wasn't allowed to whisper. I was never allowed to cry. I would have given out everyone.
So we were prepared for them. We even prepared sand for the women to throw them in the eyes in case they come in.
Ich nehme die Küche.
Somehow I figured out that my grandmother is a strong lady. And if I'll be where my grandmother is, maybe I'll survive.
Herr Obersturmbannführer, niemand hier. Ja, keiner hier.
We were pretty good till Sukkot 42. They surrendered the city and they went from house to house and they took away 900 people, more than half of the Jewish people. They took away to
to Belzec, to the concentration camps, and the rest had to go to the ghetto. My mother said, no, we are not going to go to the ghetto. We come to the ghetto, and 2 days later we are gone. Nissel, she said to my older brother, Nissel, you go and look for a place. You go in the forest there, go dig a hole somewhere to hide.
My uncle Nissel went to Bilch's Lotte, and he said we should go to Verteva, to the grotto.
In the center of the Bilch's-Lotte Valley was a very extensive cave, which had attracted speleologists from all over Europe.
We had no choice. We tried to stick the family together. That was our goal. My cousin Saul Wexler was with us.
There were 3 of us. My mother, my younger brother Leo, and I. My father had gone to New York before the war broke out, but we got stuck. We began transporting here on nights. Wood, kerosene, candles, food, and water.
We set up close place, not far from the entrance.
My mother said, we take everything with us. We had everything there. We were equipped.
We started building up some beds. Piece of wood here, nail it, 2 pieces of board. We went outside and we brought in some straw, some hay, anything.
We came to Verteva. My God, I've got a playground here. I would make believe I'm living in a castle, and it was wonderful not being in a bunker.
My grandmother was very worried I shouldn't get lost. You know, the cave had so many mazes going this way and that way. You just had to take the wrong turn. And I was a very little girl.
It was warm, it was dry, and we had pillows and covers, and we had food.
My father and my grandfather and my uncle Nissel all bought badges. They paid off the Ukrainian police, and they were allowed to buy back a horse and wagon from the peasants. They were collecting scrap iron for the German government, but they were free.
So they could stay in our house, and they were driving around all over. Nissel and my father, and Sima's and Sonia's father, brought in food and water and whatever we needed. I used to explore. That was my thing. I used to walk around in every hall, in every place.
Sam says he could see. Maybe his eyes are different. I couldn't go from here to I wouldn't move.
We didn't have no water there, so we used to have drips, used to come in. I used to go with my grandmother to get some drippings. A glass of water was for a family for a day.
I was once so thirsty. I got out of the cave. I say, even if they kill me, I have to go to a well somewhere. And I was thinking almost all the pail of water. I was so thirsty. I didn't have water for a few weeks, just a little bit sometimes.
Nissel was our most important contact with the outside world. One day, Nissel told us we had to hide more deeply in the grotto because peasants were being seized for labor and they might want to come here to hide too.
But Taba was an open place. You were exposed.
Nissel said, if they come in and you don't have another exit to get out, you're all doomed.
We used up all of our time in lighting supplies looking for a second exit. My cousin Sol was always the leader.
I was inside a manager. I was anything I was doing. We come in one place and I see a pile of earth. And I cave everything to stone. I came over, I took my shovel. And we see between the two stones that is soft.
And Nissel used to come in for 2-3 days and dig.
If he was digging 2 hours, he made more progress than me in 4 hours. Beautiful ground and very soft to dig. I was digging 3-4 feet in a day.
And I helped whatever they needed. They need light, they need a shovel. I wanted to show that I too am one of the boys.
One day I was at the top and I felt that I see everything like topsoil. And I look up and I see a star. We were so lucky. You could come out in the middle of the road someday. We come out in a field. And then I made from 2x4 like this a frame all around, and the top covered with earth.
Then they went in the village and they took a couple of chains from the wells. So high, it was about 5 stories high, 50 feet high maybe.
The chain was hanging down. When you walked up, you hold on to the chain.
After completing the second exit, we begin to move back to our new living quarters, which was a cave completely remote. It was all wild and primitive. The ceiling was so low that we could not walk upright. The families were now quite scattered and far apart within the cave.
The atmosphere was not as joyous as it was when we came in.
Every morning, Saul and Sam would go outside to see if there were any signs of strangers around. One day, Saul came back shaken. He told us someone had actually made steps to descend into the grotto.
The next thing that I truly remember, and it was horrendous, and it stays with me all my life, even if I want to push it away, was when the Germans came by.
Hersh Barrett was right next to the entrance.
And my mother right away stood up and said to the kids, hide any place you can.
I grabbed the axe.
My mother pushed me under. There's no room for her to go in.
Wie viele Juden könnt ihr finden? Schnell! In eine Reihe. Komm, steh auf. So nicht, Junge. Ganz schnell darüber.
I stood on the side and I said to my cousin, let's kill at least one of them. When I saw that he's not moving, I threw away the axe. I says, I don't want to see where they kill me.
Sieh dich an. Los jetzt, du auch. Stell dich zu dem Kind darüber. Stell dich zu den anderen.
Bitte, bitte, wart. Ein Moment.
All of a sudden, I hear my mother. We live here like rats. We don't mix in politics. We are women and children.
What are you afraid that the Führer is going to lose the war?
Can you imagine a Jewish woman to mention the name Führer? And he says to my mother, don't be afraid.
They take you out and you go in a camp. My mother says, I know what kind of a camps you have for us.
She told him, she opened up his eyes, looked like, I see, hey, they're not killing.
Sieh dich an.
After that, I lost my fear completely. I started to dress, put on a jacket. Now I took my time. He didn't like that, but what the heck? I had nothing to lose.
My mother knew they were going to march us out, that I needed my shoes, and she didn't want to bend down to pull out the other shoe because she felt that the German with his machine gun may bend down with her together and may see my sister hiding underneath.
Ich kann sie auch auf der Stelle
Don't
hier
worry, he says, I can kill her right here. Don't bother with this shoe. My mother starts begging him. Herr Sparre pushed out my sister's shoe.
Zieh sie jetzt an, aufgehen. Wir haben keine Zeit. Los jetzt, zieh sie an. Los jetzt hier. Steh auf, jetzt darfst du weinen. Zurück mit dir in die Reihe. Beweg dich schon. Da hinten nach.
I could hear the noise in the distance as they were leading them away, and the awful wailing of my little brother.
Los. Alle raus hier.
Up, up, up. As soon as they turned around, I wasn't very sticking to my mother. She went like this. I knew they came in the dark.
Heilung.
And I ran right, left. I lie down under a rock.
Macht schon, wir haben keine Zeit.
My mother slipped into a hole in the side.
Ganz schnell jetzt, Bewegung. Haben wir alle? Ich glaube, wir haben jetzt alle.
I know they took my mother away. I'll never see her again, and I'll never see my sister again. All of a sudden, I hear somebody saying, Schönkulle, Schönkulle, where are you?
Sonja, wie bist du? Wie bist du?
My Auntie Etta came looking for me.
Maar was kommst du nicht raus?
She says, don't be afraid, Schönkulle. Whatever will happen to me will happen to you. I'll take care of you.
I don't know what happened, or I'm sure I got very scared, that I don't remember nothing.
When I didn't hear them no more, I ran in straight in the exit. Sal was scared, and I kept pinching him, nothing.
I was finished.
I'm holding on to a chain, and I'm walking up the steps. People are screaming, open up the exit, open up the exit. But there's nothing, they can't do it. They can't do it.
Schlange, rausfinden. Was ist der Meer mit dir?
everybody started to run in different directions. We were like wild people.
It was very cold. Each one of us ran with no destination in mind. I tried to speak to Saul, but he couldn't reply.
We were only paces away from the guards. We could hear them talk about discovering us. We crawled to the village, to the Miravad barn. Mrs. Miravad had hidden Hannah once before.
What a mother. What a mother. But
That night I lay there and thought of mother and brother. The Gestapo had turned them over to the Ukrainian police.
I remember when they put us into that prison room and they put us down on the ground. They didn't feed us. My mother kept saying, "Don't worry, my child, you'll see, we're going to be fine. Your father's going to take us out and we're going to be okay." She was just trying to comfort me because I knew at that age, I knew we were going to be shot. I knew that.
I was home already. I was when I ran away. I came and I went straight to the bunker. My father and Nissel and official they ran to the Ukrainian police, and they made a deal with him. 500 something, I don't know, gram or something, gold.
The men had to bring 5 bodies to replace ours because should the Germans come back and want to see where the bodies were that were shot, he protected himself. He said, "I want to have 2 children, 2 women, and a man."
And they found 2 women and a man, but they couldn't find any children. So my father said he's not stopping. He's going to look in another place where he thinks there were some children.
I mean, that was the only way that they were going to save our lives. The policemen insisted on that. The Ukrainian policeman said, "Just lie down. I'm going to shoot 5 times in the air, and then you're just going to run away." We just got up, and my mother started to look why they didn't get up. And that's when we realized that they were shot.
When the chief of police, who was a stranger in the district, learned that Saul Wexler's mother was from Bilcheslotte, he decided he would not be able to free her or her son. The peasants might see them, and report back to the Gestapo.
We left early the next morning. It took us a full day to reach the Sturmer bunkers.
As long as I live, I will remember my cousin Saul Wexler's eyes searching for his mother and brother, and how guilty I felt that his mother and brother are not there.
He came in to our house after he killed my aunt to collect the gold and the silver. Got a whole bundle and he went away. And after that, we were in big trouble.
We had a order from the Germans, anyone going to be tomorrow, going to be shot.
I kept coming back to Ukraine every year, hoping to uncover the story of the people who had lived in the cave. Western Ukraine was one of the worst places for Jews during the war. Less than 5% survived here. 1.5 million Jews were executed without going to the camps. It was a personal extermination. I figured that if a group of Jews had lived in the cave, there were probably no survivors.
Outside, the sun warmed the fields, which were beginning to turn green. All was awakening to life. But we sat there like condemned men. There was no place on earth for us.
Every night I had dreams of my mother and brother, and sometimes in the middle of the day, I would imagine seeing them while still wide awake.
We were hiding and Nissel was going around to look. My mother says, Nissel, you gotta find a place. We cannot live like this.
Nissel went to Munko Obozinski. He lived in the forest in a little house. And he says,
I need a place for my family. Maybe I can make some bunker, hiding place in the forest, a hole. He says, you know what?
I was once hunting a fox in Iran in the hole, and I come there, I didn't go in. There's a hole. Try this hole. This was the 1st of May, a Sunday, 1943.
Zeg daar skip. Kom in een oplossende strekking.
And we look in the right side of the opening. We got down and we start sliding in. As we were walking, was corridors. We took one passage and we started walking.
The main room, when you walk in, I think you could drive in with a couple of trucks. Before was a smaller room. And then there was like arches, and you walk in the second.
And I touched a little stone. We rolled down and I hit. We go down and I put my two hands like that and I taste the water. It's a sweet water.
this is the place that we have water, we can live.
We went home with good news.
They had found the best place imaginable. No human being had ever set foot there.
"38 of us descended into the cave.
The men told us to slide down into the mud. Somebody was standing there and they kept pushing you. You know, they were maneuvering you to go down. And you slid in the mud.
We talked to our mother and says, it's very hard, and I don't know if you be able to squeeze through the stones.
I tried to get through the rocks, but it was impossible. They maneuvered my body and placed me wherever they could, until finally...
Boom, she's inside. We got the mother inside.
We came and we were very hungry, and we were wet. And I remember I had like the chills, you know?
Yeah, we came there almost without food. No food.
By the time we came to the second cave, everything was lost in the first cave.
This was with my father in business, so he knew everybody and everybody. He was a very likable guy.
There was no bank, there was no money, there was no nothing. But the only thing, if you have a few things, you trade.
The miller was a friend of this.
And he bought 100 yellow flour.
This Ukrainian guy was supposed to go pick up the flour. They made a deal with him. And he used to meet Saul and Nissel in the field there. They made an appointment. They came there, the guy's not there.
We were waiting and waiting, and we see it's almost daylight. We went back in the cave.
So the next night they went to him.
We didn't go to the door. Forced the window, and we got inside. Don't ask questions, give us back the flour.
Finally, he says, okay, I got some here in the corner. So he gave a third of it.
We decided we need a stone to make our own flowers. The guy took away from us.
So a couple of days later, Nissel and Saul went to his house.
He went in his barn, and here's the stone.
That stone, he can hardly lift, right?
This carried maybe 8 or 10 kilometers on his back.
Once they got the top stone, they made the bottom stone, grind a little bit flour and a little potatoes, and used to go to the kitchen and cook.
Each family had one man or two men that would go out and get food. If they brought in a bread, they brought in the bread for their family. These were the rules.
The women never went out. Only the men went out.
When it came to food, each family was separate. My uncle Zeta Sturmer was hiding above ground. Nissel and Saul were now heads of our family.
My father was in a very small village, and he had a very good friend.
He was afraid, plain and simple. He was just afraid, you know. We knew one thing, we have to go and we have to do what has to be done. We have to go out, no matter what. If there's no food, we are dead anyway. fine uniforms. I put on a shirt with a pair of pants. I felt like a $100. It was so much fun.
To cut wood was the most dangerous thing. It was so noisy. You start cutting and knocking and so on. You could hear it. You could hear till the police station.
So we were standing there in cutting wood. This guy came over. He knew us. He was like, grew up with us. Some people said take him in alive. Some people say kill him. He can go to the police. And then the decision was to let him go and to trust him. We trusted him. They came with the shovels and with the picks. And I bet you, they threw in there maybe 25 loads. Till they filled up the hall, they say, that's gonna be the end of them. Mendel comes running in. The villagers covered the hole. That's it, we're gonna die here.
We thought we were finished. They knew about us. We didn't have another exit.
We would all die of hunger here. A fate worse than strangulation.
It's terrible. We can't go out, we're going to die here. I said, wait a minute. The second cave was all over stone, only in the front.
There was like a little room there when we came in. And there was a boulder. And on top of that boulder, on the side,
I see some hurt.
3 days and 3 nights, we were working, everybody in shifts.
We made another exit.
We made sure that they couldn't come in, because who wants to slide in a wet hole, feet first, and you don't know where you're going.
There was a man always standing with an axe, and if they would have come in, they had to come with the feet first. They would have chopped off their feet.
We trusted one man, Munko. And Munko used to tell Nisl the whole news.
There was talk in the village that my daughter Hannah was hiding out in the home of the Mirawald woman. She had been there ever since they had discovered our first cave.
When my grandmother heard that, she said to my uncle, Nisl, you go and bring her immediately.
And Hannah came out, and she looked so nice, so clean.
The next day, the Ukrainian police came and they turned the house upside down looking for Hannah. If they would have found her, they would have surely killed her.
Then the priest came and it said that nobody should keep a Jew. He preached that they should get rid of all the Jews. So the farmer came home, he says to my father, you have to leave. He says, run, tikai. We had no friends.
All the family was now in the cave. Every time the men returned from the outside, they had bitter news. The police and their helpers had boasted that they had discovered a bunker in the forest and killed very many Jews. Among them were our best friends. There were 24 people in the bunker.
My grandmother kept a calendar in her head. She knew day by day which day it was. And when the holidays came around, my father was the chazan, and he knew how to pray beautifully.
In a whole day in Kippur, we didn't sleep. We fast, and he was praying.
When the men used to go out, it was very, very frightening. The women would sit in there, but they wouldn't talk because nobody wanted to say it out loud that they might not come back. Everyone thought about it, but nobody said anything.
If I didn't go out with Nissel, with Saul, I was sitting there and waiting for them to come back. Somebody else would try to come in, I would stick him.
On the evening of the 10th of November, my sons, Nissel and Saul, joined by my husband Zeder, went to buy grain and fuel.
Some people in our cave, they had, let's say, a gold chain. They cut little pieces. And the deal was made, and we had to stay over in the barn. It was so cold. So we tell to our father, says, what are you going to stay here? It's cold. Go back to the cave. But me and Nissel lived together. My father was completely different person. So he went back. This was about, let's say, 12 o'clock. About 2 o'clock, he's back. He says, as I was walking to the cave, somebody was yelling, "Stoi!" because I'm going to shoot. He ran away. If the police is near the cave, we are here, the family in the cave, we wouldn't be able to go in, they wouldn't be able to survive, everything is over, we're gonna all die now. Nissel said, let's go and have a look. Then I say to Nissel, I said, what are we both crawling? What do you think, if we're gonna fight somebody? Stay here. I'll go myself. And I tell him straightforward, listen, if they kill me, you're still gonna do something. But if they kill you, the family cannot survive without you there. And Sam was there. I said, everything is all right. We were all inside, and I hear that somebody's walking there.
Everybody's inside. How come somebody's outside? All of a sudden we hear shooting.
They're shooting.
Nissel picked up a big boulder, put in the hole. He was such a powerful guy.
Nobody had a brother like I had. There was no brothers like that.
Long ago, people believed that spirits and ghosts lived in caves. Now we could see that there were none here. The devils and evil spirits were outside, not in the grotto.
It was decided we would stay underground for 2 months. Let them think we were dead. Do nothing.
Everybody slept. There was no lights, nothing. We slept 18 hours a day, maybe more, maybe 20. When we stayed in, and there came the big snow.
Blowing snow and everything.
The police came and they looked and they saw no tracks.
Nobody comes out here. They must have somewhere another exit. But we didn't have nothing.
Christmas Eve, we can go out.
They, for sure, the police, they were drinking. They're not going to be around here.
My Uncle Saul made the sleigh, a collapsible sleigh.
Went out in the forest and I brought in two young little trees. I cooked and I cooked. And then I took it out, it was steaming, bent, you tie it on, and let it dry for a day, and here I have one side already. Was not one nail in the sleigh. Nothing. I look at Nissel, he was yellow, not shaved, and mud all over, like a wild man. I thought to myself, maybe I look like that too. I took the sleigh and I go with Nissel to Bitch's lot. And we load up the grain, 250 kilo or even more grain. And we start to pull, we can't even move it. So what we do? Nissel says, I'm gonna go to Bitch's lot.
Ik wil geen gamen in de verd. Ik wil zijn schrik in de vrede.
And I was waiting, the meantime was so damp, so cold, terrible. Suddenly I hear, I look around, and I see somebody's on a horse. I see Nissel comes on a horse. He brought a horse. Say, Nissel, where is the harness? You forgot the harness. He says, I'll go back for the harness. He said, don't go for the harness. We're going to make harness. Here we go in this horse. In Hebrew, say a real chutzpah to go and to steal a horse. Mendel Dodek came out. People eat horse meat. Let's kill the horse, have meat. It's a fat horse. It's a beautiful horse. I'm not going to let the horse kill it. Let it run away.
Food had become increasingly difficult to procure. We had to consider every bite. We ate only often enough to keep alive.
And I used to say to my mother, I know, Mommy, that I'm not supposed to have more food. And you keep giving me food, and I keep eating and eating. But I know that I'm still hungry. But I didn't ask for more. I just told her how I felt.
Food started to be missing. They started accusing me. I denied it. I felt guilty and ashamed, but I had nobody.
I used to grind the flour. And Sal, he helped me grind. But we grind the flour in the dark. We never use no light. I speak to him. I say, Sal. It was all flour all over the face. It was terrible. He ate up the flour for the family. Very naive. It was he didn't act smart.
That day I got the first of many beatings. They warned me if they ever catch me stealing, they're gonna throw me out.
He was hungry. I think he was hungry out of loneliness.
A new problem came to plague us. The underground lakes had dried up.
The water was going down and down. It dropped maybe 15 feet when we were there.
There were fist fights and arguments.
We knew that if the Russians don't come in 1944 in the winter, there's no way that we can live there forever. For how long? For another year, no.
With the Ukrainian police, they would come after us, and they would stay there, and they would get us. Suddenly, we heard boom, 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 boom. My brother was in the army. He says,
You see that fire? That's the front.
they were going over with tanks. When we got out, we see a tank there, a smashed truck here.
You go outside, and who knows what's outside.
I think at one point, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think they took lots at the end. Who's going to be the first one to go out?
We didn't know who was outside, the Russians or the Germans, so they sent us to go to the woods where Munko lived. He said the Russians are here, the Germans are here, and we are in the middle. We were stuck outside the cave. It was an hour before they realized we were missing and pulled us back in.
After working on this for 9 long years, I had finally run out of leads. As interested as I was in finding out if this legend or rumor was true, I came to the realization that perhaps not all puzzles are solvable. Then on a winter night in December, I just came back from an expedition. And I was tired, and I was greeted by 40 or 45 pieces of junk mail. And I think it was the next to last one, when something caught my attention. Jewish cave survivor. And I froze. It was from a fellow who identified himself as Ed Vogel the son-in-law of Saul Wexler, who survived the Holocaust by living in a cave in Western Ukraine for over a year. And Saul was living less than 7 miles away from me. He sat me down and started to tell me his story, how he lost his mother and brother, how he survived underground for over a year and a half.
My cousin Saul Wexler called my uncle Saul Sturmer, and he told him that there is a man, and his name is Chris Nicola.
Those are the remains of the branches that came outside.
Yeah.
That was this morning.
This morning, he said, my child.
And then I learned Esther Sturmer had written the survival story down and listed the family names. That's when I remembered the chamber in the cave where all the writing. And it hit me like a brick wall. Sturmer, Salman, Wexelblad, Kurtz, Dodik. Among all these words were their names.
We were in the right place, the right moment. That was our luck. And maybe that's why I wanted to go back and to say thank you to the cave.
It's with us. We try not to show it, but it's always with us.
And here I am, back after 67 years. Pow!
My Uncle Sam and my Uncle Saul have fantastic memories. Well, this piece of land belonged to this family, and this piece of land belonged to our family, and this piece of land belonged to the Dodik family.
Then I stop for a second and say, hey, where are the people? Where are the people? I know this, and I knew all the names. This is Rosenstock, and this is Brad Schneider, and this is right through all the people. And nobody there.
Where are the people? And this was the most painful thing to come. Very painful.
Going back into that prison room, that was the hardest day of my trip to Ukraine. I saw everything that happened, and it's like almost like I heard my mother speaking to me in my head. We didn't tell people too many times. If we spoke about the cave, we spoke it amongst ourselves. We didn't tell it to others because it was just too incredible.
It would be hard for experienced cavers to endure a year underground, not just by the environmental conditions, but also mental conditions. They discovered one of the longest caves in the world, and they broke the record for uninterrupted, sustained survival. These were amateurs that ranged in age from 2 years old to 76. They went into the cave not equipped, but through trial and error, being able to think out of the box, they turned themselves into world-class cavers. We thought that getting into Priest's Grotto might be too difficult for them. Sam is in his 80s and Saul is 91. But Sam insisted on trying.
Okay, Andy. Doesn't want to do Okay.
We're doing good.
Okay.
Okay, watch these.
very disappointing because I wanted to go in and be in the place where we live.
Listen. The Ukrainians will tell you there's something special about this cave. Once you open the door, you can feel something. The cave knows you and your brother were here.
Oh, yeah, the cave knows.
It knows.
It knows. I love to go anyway.
What did your mother write in the beginning of the book? What did she write about why she wrote the book?
Because she wants, maybe someday, grandchildren and great-grandchildren to come and to see what we went through.
And who's standing right alongside you?
My granddaughter and my brother's grandson.
Was my first bedtime story. Everything about the cave.
My granddaughter, she got out that building, beautiful, a nice tall girl, said, "This is my granddaughter, came to my cave." This was worth $1 million to see that. The first day when I walked down and I came and I looked down, I could see it now, the way it looked.
Nice and slow. Guiding Sal through the passageways of the Tabor is quite an experience. I felt like I'm going back in time, and in my mind, I'm thinking that he's seeing things the same way he did 67 years ago.
You better watch my cave here, don't break nothing.
When it was Sam's turn, his energy level was unbelievable.
Fine, I'm fine.
He was so eager and energetic, he was pulling me through the cave. We're gonna continue going straight.
When I went into Verteba, I saw everything in front of me. I saw the people.
This is where they were cooking.
And I was happy.
This is where they were cooking. Look, don't you see it's all smoke here?
When I was 5 years old, 1/3 of my life was spent in caves.
I think we slept here.
See, Sam, when it gets dark,
yeah,
you put just a candle, you're going to see it's the same cave. Now I know where I am. Let's close all the lights for a minute. No, I feel good. The cave was fighting for me. I should be alive today. Those stones put up a fight.
I was safe. In the darkness, I feel safety. In the quietness. And sometimes, you know, you're still the child that is in the grotto.
The Russians, they bombed the Germans, so we stayed inside. And we told this guy that if the Russians come in, he should put a note and put it on a string and put it down in the hole. One day I come out there is this.
What a noise, everybody was yelling and crying, and we were liberated. You can't imagine this feeling, how beautiful it is on sight.
I said, close the candle, quick. It's too bright, I can't see. I forgot that there was a sun.
not one person came out to greet us and say, hey, these were neighbors. We're so happy that you're alive.
In the other dock, before we left, a beautiful German Shepherd. This dog, if he could say, where you been?
There are miracles and there aren't miracles, depends how you want to believe. There had to be miracles for us.
I feel like I did something good. I went to Ukraine looking for my family story, and I found someone else's.
We beat the odds, and they didn't get us.
We are not heroes, we just survivors. We fought, we were fighters.
We were masters of our own fate in the cave. There was no one to whom we owed our safety or upon whom we depended. After our men came in from the outside and scraped off the mud which clung to their clothing, they were free men.
And Channel 5's season of programmes focusing on the mindset, method and missions of the Nazis continues later this week with Treblinka, inside Hitler's secret death camp, brand new Wednesday night at 9. Next, Kenneth Branagh and Robert Downey Jr. star in the legal thriller The Gingerbread Man. Stay with us.